Okay, I'm going to be doing a drawing of this particular image on this paper. And this is 14 by 17. This image is definitely not 14 by 17 aspect ratio, so it's probably going to cut off a little bit. Anyway, so the first thing that we should do is make sure that your image is at the same, it's parallel with your picture. You don't want, if it's crooked, your lines are going to wind up being crooked with this technique, so you want to try to keep it as square as possible. And let's try to do that. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find my vanishing point by using these red lines that I've made. You can see that I drew multiple red lines connecting the different parts of the ceiling and the floor just to really test where that vanishing point is. And then I put a yellow line for my horizon line. So I'm going to start testing some of these lines. And I can see that this doesn't quite hit the corner of the paper here. But what's most important is that all these internal relationships of these angles are correct. If they are in here, then yes, we're going to crop out some of the sides of our picture, but it should be fine. So I'm going to try to keep this angle correct here. And my pencil's missing. Here's one. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do this actually with a ruler. Because then you can kind of put it down, which is convenient. So this is probably wrong. I'm just saying. I'm just going to try it a couple times. You got to do a couple times. There. And I did draw it a little too high up. If I look at the image, my horizon line's probably going to be, it's not quite in the center, it's like a little above. And so I probably drew this a little high. I'm going to move this down. Because if you cropped in on this photo, what would happen is you would be a little further up the page. Probably not that high. So I'll crop in a little bit less. There we go. Probably inconsequential. All right, so now do the other side. You want to keep exactly the same angle from this point. This is what's key, is that the relationship between these two angles must be the same as the relationship between these two angles. So you need to make sure that their relationship is correct. Do not change the angle with your body. So this requires keeping your body very stable. Be careful with your page. My page might have just tilted there a little bit. You don't want to move your page. Okay. Now, I'm going to test some upper ones. Up here. Connected to the vanishing point. Check a few times. Make sure it's accurate. So you can easily do this without a ruler, or, well, not maybe easily, but you can do this without a ruler and without a photo. That's a little off. So I like to use skewers, and you can just test the angle with a skewer and then hold it up. If you were drawing this from something further away in space and you weren't doing a photograph, you would just close one eye and hold the skewer at a distance and then move it to the paper. So wait a second, I'm now trying to figure out which line is correct. I have to remember. That line looks more correct. It's really hard to keep your body in exactly the same position. Yeah, okay, so that line's more correct. And a lot of this also is about seeing accurately, which just takes time and practice. So because it's pretty difficult to see things accurately. I'm going to create the horizon line. But the more you draw, the more you will start to notice when things look accurate and inaccurate. If you do a lot of perspective drawings, you would really start to notice when things look wrong. So this is another part of the ceiling here. And really, this is just about relationships. So these two are very different. I got to figure out which one is right. Which one did I move on? I think the top one's right. Now it's showing me somewhere in between. Okay, the top one's right. So you can draw in some of those. I'm drawing in those red lines is what I'm currently doing. And now I'm going to draw the top one here. It's got to connect to this vanishing point. Looks quite different. It's changing. So it means it's hard to really keep your body exactly in the same position. And then your paper can move, like my paper just moved like a tiny bit when you're doing this. If you're working on a pad, it's much less likely that your paper is going to move like mine's moving. All right, I'm going to trust this top line. All right, so then you're probably wondering, how do I do like this internal space? So you're going to have to draw a rectangle within that, and it's going to connect. You can see that it connects on these bottom two lines, but it's not connecting on the top. It's connecting actually at that one corner, but that corner does not connect. So, okay, let's try to do this. So I want to connect the bottom here. And which one did I say I connected? Oh yeah, the one with this guy. And this is a rectangle. So, and maybe that's a little high for the rectangle. If I was going to draw it, I think it looks more like, looks a little lower. So actually what that implies is that possibly this rectangle is smaller than I need it. So I'm going to scale it back. I think I made it too big. Okay. Should be maybe a little bit wider. I'm going to erase it out and look at it. So it's not connecting on this side because it doesn't actually meet on the line here. It meets on this line here, and then it meets on this corner and that corner. So actually it should be meeting on these two corners. For some reason it's not. So this implies that something is probably off. And it looks like it's this line. So when you start drawing things like this internal rectangle, you'll probably find out what's wrong, because if your rectangle or whatever it is on the inside doesn't look quite right, then you should fix it. This line should be moved over a little bit. Okay, so that looks a lot better. And I noticed that I had this line off. I might have had the top one off too. I'm gonna just have to double check. Yep, okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so now that's the internal part there. And the rest of the stuff you can figure out by drawing. Like, I'm gonna draw this particular item because I notice a lot of people, what they get wrong is when something comes out like this, people have trouble drawing that. So I'm gonna note that it hits the edge here. And how far is it about from my thing? And this is, which line is it that it hits the top of? Ah, it's this line right up here. So how far is it from that area? Well, you're just gonna have to guess here. That's the middle point. One and a half, basically. One, maybe like around here. All right, so this is this line, and it's parallel. These lines here are parallel to my picture plane, so these are pretty easy. Anything here is easy if it's parallel. Same with these lines this way. It's when they start having to go to the vanishing points that it becomes tricky. All right, so now there's a little bit more of a continuation of this angle here in this photo, but like I said, we have a different aspect ratio, so it's not gonna be totally right. But anyway, then there's gonna be, this protrudes beyond this bottom line here. So I need to draw it a little beyond the bottom line. All right, and then go to my vanishing point with it. It's not that far. So this needs to go to the vanishing point. I do this a lot lighter so you can see. And then it needs to go up, parallel with this line. Can erase this. And then it needs to go back in space at a horizontal and then back up parallel to the sides of your picture. So that is this column. It's pretty enlarged, but it's probably a little thinner, which implies that I probably projected out too far this way. If you want, you could fix that by just going in a little bit, like so, and correcting it by going up. And erasing out some lines. So you can make it thinner. You can see I just made it thinner. I also made it a little bit wider this way. If you don't want it as wide, you can move this line in. So you can really adapt this thing based on what it looks like, and you're just going to have to like kind of judge some of these distances by eye for figuring out how wide to make things. Now it doesn't look so wide to me this way. It looks wider actually that way. So I can take this in and make this thinner. So keep asking yourself if it's wider one direction than another, and where's the halfway point approximately, and these things can help you figure this stuff out. So this is just a beginning, but it shows you how I would translate the vanishing point. And the most difficult thing that people have trouble with is figuring out kind of this, if there's a window or an area in the back, and then that people also have trouble figuring out when something comes, you know, in front of the floor. Here's actually the real floor. And when a column comes out like this, a lot of people start making mistakes. So you can erase out this part here. And hopefully you can see now this projects forward, right? All right, so hopefully you can figure out the rest. If you have more trouble, please let me know. There are things like if this door is open here, you can see that if you're not sure what angle something is, just put your ruler against it. Make sure once again that this is parallel with your picture, and then try to transfer it over using a ruler, using a skewer. Check a bunch of times to see if you're accurate in your angles. And like I said, you will start to see when things look off the more you do this. If you keep doing a lot of perspective drawings, or even just drawing in general, when I used to teach figure drawing, I would practice every single day to make sure I was sharp. And I noticed that if I didn't practice every single day, I would not be able to see things as accurately. So literally the more you draw, the more accurate, when you're drawing from life, the more accurately you're going to see things and translate them from life. Your muscle control is going to get better, and you'll see when things look off, and then you'll be able to fix them.